Imagine this. You are 21 or 22 years old. Your family is sitting together late at night, having a conversation that feels heavier than any before. Everyone knows what is about to happen. Land that has been in your family for generations is being sold. Gold saved for weddings or emergencies is exchanged for cash. Money is borrowed from relatives who quietly understand they may never see it again. All of it is for one promise: a student visa, not just education, but a way out, a chance to escape uncertainty, a chance to reset life somewhere else. A consultancy office explains the plan with confidence. Study for 2 years, work part-time, get a work permit, apply for permanent residency, bring your parents, build a future that feels stable. They show glossy photos of universities with green lawns, old buildings, and smiling students. Everything looks official, everything looks safe. So you pack your life into 2 suitcases. You hug your family at the airport.
We're proud of you. Take care of yourself.
I will. Thanks for everything. Don't be a stranger.
You promise them it will all be worth it. You land in Toronto, or London, or Sydney, and slowly, reality begins to feel different. The campus isn't historic. It's a rented floor in a commercial building. Your student housing is a basement shared with 6 other people. There's one kitchen, one bathroom, no privacy. Rent takes most of what you earn. Work stretches late into the night. Classes feel disconnected from real opportunity. For more than a decade, this experience was not rare. It was common. This was the international student boom. Governments welcomed the money. Universities depended on the fees. Landlords redesigned homes to fit more tenants. And students absorbed the risk. For years, the system expanded without asking difficult questions. How many people could cities absorb? How much housing actually existed? How much strain could communities handle? Those questions were ignored until 2024 and 2025. That is when everything changed. Borders tightened, rules hardened, limits were introduced. What once felt like an open door began to close. The golden ticket did not slowly fade away. It was pulled back, and millions of people were caught in the middle. To understand why, we need to start with Canada. For years, Canada was marketed as the safest option: welcoming, predictable, fair. Consultants described it as a near-guaranteed pathway to permanent residency. Between 2013 and 2023, the number of international students in Canada nearly tripled. More than 1 million study permit holders were living in the country. This growth did not come only from elite universities. It came from a system built quietly in the background. Public colleges licensed their programs to private institutions. These private colleges operated out of commercial spaces, strip malls, and office buildings. Students received diplomas linked to public colleges without ever attending the main campus. The programs were usually broad: general business, hospitality, basic management. The education itself was rarely the main attraction. The real prize was the post-graduation work permit. Education became the entry point. Work authorization became the goal. As student numbers increased, pressure began to build. Housing supply did not keep up. Rents climbed rapidly. Basements were divided into smaller and smaller living spaces. Reports emerged of shared beds and rotating sleep schedules. Food banks began seeing international students for the first time. Public frustration grew. Local residents blamed students for housing shortages. Students blamed a system that brought them there without warning. The government could no longer ignore it. In 2024, Canada reduced new study permits by more than 1/3. In 2025, it cut them again. But the most important change was structural. Each province was given control over how many international students it would accept. Applicants now required a provincial attestation letter before applying for a visa. This single change reshaped the entire system. Private career colleges were largely excluded. Many public-private partnerships were effectively shut down. Work permit eligibility narrowed. Spousal work permissions were reduced. Undergraduate pathways became far more restrictive. Canada's message shifted. Education was no longer an indirect immigration pathway. Only specific profiles now qualified. Many students were filtered out before arrival. Others were left mid-plan, unsure what came next. Australia followed a similar trajectory. For years, students entered Australia through legitimate universities and later transferred to low-cost vocational providers. Attendance became minimal, work became the focus, migration numbers surged, housing pressure increased, political attention followed. The government introduced the genuine student test. Visa officers were given discretion to judge whether a course made sense for an applicant's background and career history. Age became a factor. Study gaps became a factor. Course pricing became a factor. Refusal rates rose sharply. Applicants from South Asia and parts of Africa were hit hardest. Visa application fees increased significantly. National caps were introduced. Australia's system began favouring fewer students, higher fees, and shorter stays. The idea of education as a long-term settlement pathway weakened. By the middle of the decade, the pattern was clear. The countries that once depended on international students were changing direction, and the consequences were only beginning to show.
When borders tighten, the effects do not stop at airports. They move quietly through cities, classrooms, and households. The United Kingdom learned this quickly. For years, the UK had rebuilt its international education system by allowing students to bring dependents. For many mature students, this made studying financially possible. Spouses worked. Families shared expenses. Life felt manageable. In early 2024, that door closed. Dependent visas were restricted almost overnight. Only research-based postgraduate students were exempt. The impact was immediate. Applications dropped sharply. Entire intakes disappeared. Universities that had built budgets around international fees suddenly faced gaps they could not fill. In 2025, the post-study work period was shortened. What was once a 2-year window became tighter and more uncertain. A proposed levy on international tuition added another layer of cost. Students now faced a new risk: the possibility that a university itself could fail while they were still enrolled. Some institutions began cutting courses mid-cycle. Others froze hiring. A few openly warned regulators about insolvency. The idea that studying in the UK was financially safe no longer felt certain. The United States approached restriction differently. Student visas were not capped in the same visible way, but approvals became harder to obtain. Rejection rates climbed to their highest levels in years. Applicants from several regions saw refusal rates approach half of all applications. Security reviews expanded. Administrative processing delays became common. Even after arrival, uncertainty remained. Post-study work pathways narrowed. Employment visas faced stricter scrutiny. The transition from student to professional became unpredictable. For long programs like doctoral degrees, proposals emerged to limit visa duration to fixed terms. The message was subtle but clear. Education alone was no longer enough. Across these countries, the same truth emerged. International students were not just learners. They were economic pillars. They paid higher tuition. They filled rental housing. They supported transit systems, grocery stores, cafes, and small businesses. As student numbers declined, the effects spread. Rental demand softened in some cities. Landlords adjusted pricing. Small businesses near campuses saw fewer customers. Universities faced hard choices: cut programs, lay off staff, reduce research output. Domestic students, once protected by subsidized education, began to feel the pressure as well. When international money disappears, someone else must cover the cost. But while traditional destinations tightened, demand did not disappear. It shifted. Germany became more attractive with low-cost public education and clearer work pathways. Japan and South Korea increased international recruitment to offset aging populations. Ireland, France, and parts of Eastern Europe expanded English-taught programs. New regional education hubs began to form. Countries in Asia and the Middle East invested heavily in international campuses. Degrees were increasingly offered without requiring permanent relocation. Transnational education grew quietly. Students could earn foreign degrees while living closer to home. lower cost, lower risk, less dependence on immigration outcomes. Even major sending countries began adapting. Foreign universities opened campuses in India, Southeast Asia, and Africa. Students gained access to international credentials without selling family assets or taking extreme financial risks. Education was being unbundled from migration. For students planning today, the landscape is different. What mattered in the past no longer guarantees success. Country reputation is not enough. University branding is not enough. Consultancy promises are not enough. Policy matters more than marketing. Skill alignment matters more than general degrees. Adaptability matters more than tradition. The international student boom of the 2010 seconds was built on expansion. The current phase is built on correction. Governments are reasserting control. Universities are restructuring. Students are being asked to take responsibility for outcomes that were once assumed. Opportunities still exist, but they are narrower, more selective, more dependent on planning. The golden ticket is gone. What remains is a map that must be read carefully. If you are studying abroad, planning to study, or rethinking your future, this shift matters. The question is no longer where education looks impressive. The question is where education still aligns with reality. Where would you choose to study if migration was no longer guaranteed? Let me know in the comments. And if this helped you understand what changed, share it with someone who needs clarity, because the system has changed, and pretending it hasn't only makes the fall harder.